news, or if you're following the news, I'm pretty sure you keep seeing this Jeffrey Epstein up and down, left and right, non-stop. And of course, these are very, very important things, and these are things that we need to follow, correct? However, if you also follow the news in the background, what is going on, even last night at 2 a.m., some bills have been passed through the Senate. Nobody's talking about it. There's nothing in the news. Because I follow the news daily, I just couldn't believe, and I really couldn't help myself to inform you as I always do, and to give you the information so that you can have a larger understanding of what's going on and make critical decisions and make critical analysis like I do, and understand the world as a whole. So I will give you, if you can see on the thumbnails, this is what we were talking about. We were talking about 4 important news that is really, really important, that we must talk about it. And I want you to immediately call your representatives and mention this to them. I mean, we'll talk about what I mean by that, in which institution or who you need to call to get insurance that they actually represent us in in the Senate or in the House, to make sure that these things are being held accountable, okay? Because I'm pretty sure what we are seeing here is some of them are against the law, and so they must be talked about. And I'm stunned that this is not being talked, not only not in the mainstream media, but of course the YouTubers, these alternative whatever media channels, they are rather focusing on that Donald Trump has bruising on his hand and swelling on his legs, and everybody is starting to become a medical professional to analyze whether or not these medical diagnosis, whether or not it's important or not. I mean, so, and these alternative news media outlets, they're actually also nonstop talking about Jeffrey Epstein, just because it makes money, okay? It makes a lot of clicks, and I can see all of these videos about Jeffrey Epstein have at the minimum 100,000 views, full stop. But listen, we care on my channel on day-to-day Americans, correct? On day-to-day life that we must address. And so let's get into it. The first thing I want to talk about is, this is the news from the Associated Press from today, July 17. Okay? I'm telling you guys, this is literally today's news. Is it anywhere in the news? You tell me. Okay, Associated Press, the title is, Trump administration hands over Medicaid recipients' personal data, including addresses, to ICE. And as you know, I'm a data safety, data privacy, data security freak for more than 2 decades, because also based on my work, right? So, but what's important here is, and also I will have a new channel where I talk about responsible AI, ethical AI, and data privacy, data security, and I will teach you how you actually need to use the technology so that you can protect yourself. Also, how your information is being shared and how can you protect yourself the best. Okay, I do this regularly because I have to teach not only the team, but everybody about it, even like close people, because they also can put you in harm. And that's why it is so important that we talk about this, okay? And for me, it's very, very important. And I cannot emphasize enough how important this is, and especially in the United States, because Europeans are more have more understanding of data privacy and data security, and that's why in Europe the data privacy laws are very, very strict, very strict. There's no joke about it, okay? And in the United States, unfortunately, the laws, because, in my mind, it's because many people just don't understand. If you think about the aging Senate, they don't understand they don't have a clue about technology. They don't have a clue about data safety and security. And most Americans that I know, even in a higher level in the governments, in the city government, etc., they have absolutely no clue about data safety and security and privacy protection. No, full stop. That's my experience. Non-stop for decades, right? So, okay. Let's read this. This is again from today. Immigration and Customs Enforcement officials have been Immigration and Customs Enforcement officials will be given access to the private data of the nation's 79 million Medicaid enrollees, including home addresses and ethnicities, to track down immigrants who may not be living legally in the United States, according to an agreement obtained by the Associated Press. The information will give ICE officials the ability to find the location of aliens across the country, says the agreement signed Monday between the centers. Look, this is signed on Monday and we are on Thursday. Signed Monday between the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services and the Department of Homeland Security. The agreement has not been announced publicly. I cannot make this stuff up. This is so, what? Guys, I read this with you, okay? The agreement has not been announced publicly because it's illegal. The extraordinary disclosure of millions of such personal health data to deportation officials is the latest escalation in the Trump administration immigration crackdown, which has repeatedly tested legal boundaries in its effort to arrest 3,000 people daily. Lawmakers and some CMS officials have challenged the legality of deportation officials' access to some states' medical enrollee data. It's a move first reported by the AP last month. Who is talking about this? Nobody. That's why you need to subscribe, please. And if you like this video, please like, so that people can see this and this being more talked about, okay? We have to do headlines with this. That Health and Human Services officials said was aimed at rooting out people enrolled in the program improperly. But the latest data sharing agreement makes clear what ICE officials intend to do with the health data. ICE will use the CMS data to allow ICE to receive identity and location information on aliens identified by ICE, the agreement says. Such an action could ripple widely. Such disclosures, even if not acted upon, could cause widespread alarm among people seeking emergency medical help for themselves or their children. Other officials to crack down on illegal immigration have made schools, churches, courthouses, and other everyday places feel perilous to immigrants and even U.S. citizens who fear getting caught up in a raid. HHS spokesperson Andrew Nixon would not respond to the greatest agreement. It is unclear, though, whether Homeland Security has yet accessed the information. The department's Assistant Secretary, Teresa McLaughlin, said in an email statement that the two agencies are exploring an initiative to ensure that illegal aliens are not receiving medical benefits that meant for law-abiding Americans. The database will reveal to ICE officials the names, addresses, birth dates, ethnic and racial information, as well as social security numbers for all people enrolled in Medicaid. The state and federally funded program provides health care coverage program for the poorest of people, including millions of children. This is what I don't understand. This is what I don't understand, what they don't understand. Because if you have a social security number, I mean, you're not even illegal. That's what I don't understand. I mean, if you have a social security number, to even get the social security number, I mean, you can't be illegal then. That's what I don't understand. The agreement does not allow ICE officials to download the data. Instead, they will be allowed to access it for a limited period from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday until September 9th for 2 months. For actually 1.5 months. They are trying to turn us into immigration agents, said CMS official, did not have permission to speak to the media and insisted on anonymity. Wow. Immigrants who are not living in the United States legally, as well as some lawfully present immigrants, are not allowed to enroll in the Medicaid program that provides nearly free coverage for health services. Medicaid is a jointly funded program between states and the federal government. Why? I don't understand. As well as some lawfully present immigrants are not allowed to enroll in the Medicaid program. Why? I don't know. I mean, that's the first time I'm hearing this. But because if you're legally here, there's nothing, I mean, maybe it depends on the states, I don't know. But federal law requires all states to offer emergency Medicaid, exactly, to temporary coverage that pays only for life-saving services in emergency rooms to anyone, including non-US citizens. Emergency Medicaid is often used by immigrants, including those who are lawfully present and those who are not. Many people sign up for emergency Medicaid in the most desperate moments, said Hannah Ketch, a previous advisor to CMS during the Biden administration. It is unthinkable that CMS would violate the trust of Medicaid enrollees enrollees in this way, Kat said. She said the personally identifiable information of enrollees has not been historically shared outside of the agency unless for law enforcement purposes to investigate waste, fraud, or abuse of the program. Trump team has pursued information aggressively. Trump officials last month demanded that the federal health agency staffers release personally identifiable information on millions of Medicaid enrollees from 7 states that permit non-U.S. citizens to enroll in their full Medicaid programs. The states launched these programs during the Biden administration and said they would not bill the federal government to cover the health care costs of those immigrants. All states, California, New York, Washington, Oregon, Illinois, Minnesota, and Colorado have Democratic governors. That data sharing with DHS officials prompted widespread backlash from lawmakers and governors. 20 states have since sued over the move, alleging it violated federal health privacy laws. CMS officials previously fought and failed to stop the data sharing. So I'm going to go real quickly because we have a lot to cover. So I don't want to make it too long. It's already 10:30 p.m. So I'm very, very tired. So I just want to get this out there as soon as possible. So let's read this very fast, okay? CMS officials previously fought and failed to stop the data sharing that is now at the center of the lawsuit. On Monday, CMS officials were once again debating whether they should provide DHS access, citing concerns about the ongoing litigation. In an email chain obtained by the AP called Hold DHS Access Urgent, CMS Chief Legal Officer Rujul H. Desai said they should first ask the Department of Justice to appeal to the White House directly for a pause on the information sharing. In a response the next day, HHS lawyer Lena Amanti said that the Justice Department was uncomfortable with CMS proceeding with providing DHS access. Dozens of members of Congress, including Democratic Senator Adam Schiff of California, sent letters last month to DHS and HHS officials demanding that the information sharing stop. The massive transfer of personal data of millions of Medicaid recipients should alarm every American, and that's why I'm making this video, okay? And it's nowhere in the news. The massive violation of our privacy laws must be halted immediately, Schiff said in response to AP's description of the new expanded agreement. It will harm families across the nation and only cause more citizens to forego life-saving access to health care. The new agreement makes clear that DHS will use the data to identify for deportation purposes people who in the country illegally. But HHS officials have repeatedly maintained that it would be used primarily as a cost-living measure to investigate whether non-US citizens were improperly accessing Medicaid benefit. HHS acted entirely with its legal authority and in full compliance with all applicable laws to ensure that Medicaid benefits are reserved for individuals who are lawfully entitled to receive them, Nixon said in a statement responding to the lawsuits last month. Okay, that's the end. So you need to call your representatives immediately, okay? Share this video with everyone. Everyone must be alerted by this, okay? So please share this video and call your representatives. This is so critical to understand that. I mean, I 100% agree with with Adam Schiff saying that this is so massive and it should alarm every single American. As I said, that's why I'm doing this. And so yeah, definitely share and call the representatives immediately. This is so serious, guys. So now let's talk about the second one. Ah, come on. Okay, the second one is about the similar situation, but this time landlords, okay? Immigration authorities demand landlords turn over tenant info. Nobody's talking about this, guys. Nobody. And this is all over the news, and this was from where I'm reading is the Rental Housing Journal from July 15, 2 days ago, okay? Immigration authorities have issued subpoenas demanding that landlords turn over leases, rental applications, forwarding addresses, identification cards, and other information on their tenants, according to the Associated Press. Eric Toosink, an Atlanta area real estate attorney, told the Associated Press that several of his clients recently received subpoenas asking for entire files on tenants. A rental application can include work history, marital status, and family relationships. The 2-page information enforcement subpoena, which Toosink shared exclusively with the Associated Press, also asks for information on other people who live with a tenant. One of these documents, dated May 1st, is signed by an officer with the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services Anti-Fraud Unit. However, it is not signed by a judge. It has to be signed by a judge. A subpoena alone is not enough, and that's why many landlords do not understand that by law it has to be signed. A subpoena has to be signed by a judge. Apparently only one single officer has signed these subpoenas, and guess what, guys? Again, it's dating back to 1.5 months ago, May 1st. Who is talking about this in the news? Nobody. This is serious stuff, guys. This is so serious. You need to call your representatives immediately. You need to also call your housing department of your city. You share this article to them and say you should inform your landlords immediately, okay? Toosink told the Associated Press many of his clients oversee multifamily properties and are used to getting subpoenas for other reasons, such as requests to hand over surveillance footage or give local police access to a property as part of an investigation. But those requests are each signed by a judge, he said. Toosink said his clients were confused by the latest subpoenas. After consulting with immigration attorneys, he concluded that compliance is optional unless signed by a judge. The letters are essentially just an officer making a request. This is so important to understand. It seemed like they were on a fishing expedition, Toosink said, according to vabe.org. ICE officers ICE officers have long used subpoenas signed by an agency supervisor to try to enter homes. Advocacy groups have mounted a Know Your Rights campaign urging people to refuse entry if the documents are not signed by a judge. Landlords know the difference between administrative and court order subpoenas. Denise Holliday, an Arizona attorney, noted that ICE commonly uses administrative subpoenas that can feel a bit intimidating, but she encourages all business owners to learn the difference between a court order subpoena and an administrative subpoena and create a policy under which you will respond to ICE subpoenas and related communications. It is legal to safely ignore administrative subpoena absent a court order, but you may prefer to provide a written response that explains your grounds for objecting to what is requested in the subpoena. ICE may seek a court order for your company to comply with a request to produce information, and if you fail to comply with that court order, there may be serious legal consequences, Holliday said. The subpoena reviewed by the AP is from USCIS, Fraud Detection and National Security Directorate, which, like ICE, is part of the Department of Homeland Security. Although it isn't signed by a judge, it threatens that a judge may hold landlord in contempt of court for failure to comply. Tricia McLaughlin, a Homeland Security spokeswoman, defended the use of subpoenas against landlords without confirming whether they are being issued. We are not going to comment on law enforcement's tactics surrounding ongoing investigations, McLaughlin said. However, it is false to say that subpoenas from ICE can simply be ignored. ICE is authorized to obtain records or testimony through specific administrative subpoena authorities. Failure to comply with an ICE-issued administrative subpoena may result in serious legal penalties. The media needs to stop spreading these lies. ICE subpoenas new to many landlords. Boston real estate attorney Jordana Rubicek-Greenman said a landlord client of hers received a vague voicemail from an ICE official last month requesting information about a tenant. Other local attorneys told her that their clients had received similar messages. She told her client not to call back. Anthony Luna, the CEO of Coastline Equity, a commercial and multifamily property management company that oversees about 1,000 units in the Los Angeles area, said property managers started contacting him a few weeks ago about concerns from tenants who heard rumors about ICE subpoenas. Most do not plan to comply if they receive them. If they are going after criminals, why aren't they going through court documents? Luna said. Why do they need housing provider files? Lindsay Nash, a law professor at Yeshiva University Cardozo School of Law in New York, said ICE can enforce the subpoenas, but it would first have to file a lawsuit in federal court and get a judge to sign off on its enforcement, a step that would allow the subpoena's recipient to push back, Nash said. She said recipients often comply without telling the person whose records are being divulged. Many people see these subpoenas, think that they look official, think that some of the language in them sounds threatening, and therefore respond even when, from what I can tell, it looks like some of these subpoenas have been overboard, she said. Okay, this is really very serious, guys. So definitely what I would suggest is to contact your not only your landlords. If you're a landlord, talk with a lawyer, talk with your city's housing department. If you are a tenant, talk with your city's housing department, talk with your landlords, your management company, and share this information, share these all of this information from the internet, all of the whatever you find about this, send us to them and say that this is happening, so that they are informed, because looks like many tenants do not even know what to do at this point. Okay, this is so serious, guys. So now let's talk about this. I want to keep this the last. The other thing I have to just upload this very quick. Hold on one second. All right. All right. All right. Okay. Let's get this out of here. Okay, perfect. So now, okay, let's do time step one more time. Okay, perfect. So now I want to talk about what actually happened tonight, overnight at 2 a.m. And this is from the Hill. Senate passes $9 billion with a B in cuts to global aid, public broadcasting in win for Trump. The Senate voted early Thursday to claw back $9 billion in federal funding for global aid programs and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, sending the package requested by President Trump to the House for a final vote. The 51-48 vote on what's known as a rescissions package is a victory for Trump, who has voted to shrink the size of the government and who has come under fire from Democrats for adding a projected $3.3 trillion with a T to the debt over the next decade by signing his One Big Beautiful Bill Act into law earlier this month on July 4th, right? Senators finally passed a package after 2 a.m. Thursday, after voting for more than 12 hours on amendments. Did anybody talk about this? Was it even in the news? No, it wasn't. I did learn about this morning. And even so, I did not see anyone talking about this, okay? I mean, trust me, these YouTubers are also after money, okay? They just talk only about stuff that makes them money, okay? Views, likes, okay? And that is the Jeffrey Epstein file crap. So the win is more symbolic than anything, as it would cut only 0.1% from the federal budget. Even so, Republicans see it as an important progress. So this is such a tiniest of tiniest. It will just cut only 0.1% from the federal budget. It's a small but important step toward fiscal sanity that we all should be able to agree is long overdue. Senate Majority Leader John Thune, Republican in South Dakota, said before the final vote. Trump failed to get a $15 billion rescissions package passed during his first term after Senate Republicans balked at the proposal. This time around, Trump is working with a bigger Senate Republican majority, and this is all Democrats' fault, I'm telling you. And the GOP conference that is generally more amenable to his agenda than it was 7 years ago. Thune was able to get Trump's latest rescissions bill over the finish line, even though two senior Republicans on the Appropriations Committee voted no. Guess who? Of course, Susan Collins from Maine and Linda Murkowski from Alaska. Always these two, right? Always these two. And get this, the Senate Appropriations Committee chair is Susan Collins, and Lisa Murkowski is the chair of the Interior Appropriations subcommittees. Both opposed the package. Senator Mitch McConnell from Kentucky, Republican, the chair of the Defense Appropriations Subcommittee, voted no on two procedural votes Tuesday night, but voted in favor of the final passage. Of course he did. Of course he did. Democrats were missing Senator Tina Smith from Minnesota, who was hospitalized after feeling unwell. Collins, on several occasions before the final vote, raised concerns about what she saw was the White House failure to offer insufficient details about how the funding rescissions would be implemented. She raised that issue directly with Office of Management and Budget Director Russell Vought at a lunch meeting Tuesday. Senate Republican leaders lined up the votes after the White House agreed on amendment to remove from the package and $400 million in cuts to the president's emergency plan for AIDS relief. PEPFAR, Global Anti-AIDS Initiative, launched by former President George W. Bush more than 20 years ago. Thune told reporters Tuesday that saving PEPFAR from deep cuts was a top priority of many GOP senators. From Anti-AIDS Initiative. Imagine this. Oh, God. The bill would still cut nearly $8 billion from an assortment of international programs, including development assistance, the Economic Support Fund, the United States Agency for International Development Global Health Programs, and programs to assist refugees and victims of international disasters. Unbelievable. This would cut more than $1 billion from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which would hit rural radio stations that depend more on federal funding than their big city counterparts. Republicans hailed the cuts to public broadcasting, something Trump proposed during his first term but failed to achieve as a big victory. I hope that the administration keeps sending us rescission packages. That's the only way I can see us reducing spending, said Senator John Kennedy said. Of course he said that. Of course he did. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting, we are going to cut them off like a dead stump, he said, pointing to the National Public Radio CEO Catherine Mathers social media post from 2020 declaring America is addicted to white supremacy. But some Republicans, including Murkowski, expressed concern that the defunding public broadcasting would hurt radio stations that are often the only sources of information during natural disasters in her home state, which is Alaska. She pointed out Wednesday that a powerful 7.3 magnitude earthquake in the Aleutian Islands has forced communities along a 700-mile stretch of Alaska's coastline to evacuate, and many of those residents rely on public radio for news. 7.3 magnitude earthquake of Alaska and tsunami warnings. You know how I got this information from public broadcasting, she said. Senator Klobuchar, Democrat from Minnesota, said at the Hail Nation Summit on Wednesday that the cuts could put rural radio stations in her home state out of business. These rural stations are often the lifeblood of these communities when it comes to emergency alerts, she said. These are things that they sound small, but they are what bring communities together, she added. Okay. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer from New York said the legislation would have devastating consequences. This bill will harm Americans' farmers and researchers and businesses, make the world an easier place, unfortunately, for terrorist recruitment, and reward communist China and Russian President Vladimir Putin, Schumer said of the cuts of the global aid programs. Republicans are rushing forward without a clue how these unhinged cuts will be implemented, he declared. Democrats tried and failed to amend the legislation to spare various federational programs from cuts. An amendment sponsored by Senator Chris Coons from Delaware to shield $496 million with an M for international disaster relief failed by a vote of 49 to 50. Again, I keep saying this, one vote, okay? One vote. Every time, one vote. Although Collins, Murkowski, and McConnell voted for it. And a motion sponsored by Senator Mazie Hirono from Hawaii to recommit the bill back to the Appropriations Committee with instructions to restore Corporation for Public Broadcasting funding failed by a vote of 48 to 51. Senator Cory Booker from New Jersey offered an amendment to strike the rescission of $785 million appropriated for the Feed the Future initiative, a global hunger for food security program, praising the program for helping to save lives, promote self-reliance, and create the opportunities for trade. It failed by a vote 48 to 51. Senator Mark Kelly from Arizona offered a substitute amendment that had been contemplated by Collins to reduce the cuts of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and Global Health Programs. It would also protected NATO. It would have also protected NATO dues and funding to Ukraine. Kelly offered Collins' amendment after the Maine senator decided it didn't have a chance of being adopted by the House. Republicans voted to table the amendment 51-47. Schumer warned in a Dear Colleague letter last month that the Republican push to rescind funding that Congress had agreed on a bipartisan basis in the past could threaten the chances of reaching any spending deals later this year. He said Republican senators know it's absurd to expect Democrats to act as business as usual and engage in bipartisan appropriations process to fund the government while they concurrently plot to pass a purely partisan recession bill. The legislation now head to the House, where lawmakers must pass it by Friday, or otherwise the Office Management and Budget will be forced to release its hold on the funding it has targeted for recession. Thune, speaking to reporters Tuesday, described the amendment language to restore the funding for the Bush-era anti-AIDS initiative as a small modification and expressed hope the House will accept the Senate's work. A small modification. Oh my God. Guys, by Friday, I'm telling you, no wonder why even though I'm so tired, I felt like I had to do this. I had to inform you. By Friday, guys, call your representatives. I'm telling you, why are you not calling your representatives? Be awake, be alert, call your representatives. Global health is in stake. Anti-AIDS initiatives will be cut. I mean, I don't even know what else to say. So now finally, let's move to the most, and this was being discussed in the news, if very few media coverages, but this is from June 16, and since then it was in my mind to make the video about this, but I don't know if you have heard, but this is so serious. So let me just get this. Hold on. All right. Okay. Let's download this. Okay, perfect. Okay, so, and this is about Palantir. If you don't know nothing about Palantir, you need to know about Palantir. This is, I mean, so important. So important. Way more important than this Epstein thing. Listen. DOGE, Ways and Means, Democrats demand answers on the Trump administration's Palantir surveillance database. This is from the U.S. Representative Lloyd Doggett, Democrat. Okay, this is from his website, and this is from doggett.house.gov, and we also will talk from Bazinga. Okay, and so right here, this is from June 16 on his website. This formal inquiry follows Representative Dodgett's questioning of Secretary Bessent on allegations of the IRS releasing Americans' private information to DOGE. Democratic members of the Ways and Means Committee, led by Health Subcommittee Ranking Member Lloyd Doggett from Texas, Democrat, are demanding information on the Trump administration's secretive partnership with Palantir to build a vast, centralized database that will compile deeply personal information on American people. This database is reportedly set to include confidential taxpayer identity, wage, child support, bank account, student loan, health and medical, and financial data gathered from the Social Security Administration and the Departments of Labor, Health and Human Services, and Treasury, as well as records seized by the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. Once again, This administration is putting power and control above people's rights, said Ranking Member Richard E. Neal. With privacy next to liberty in our democratic system, a surveillance state is anti-American. The people entrust the government to safeguard their most private data, not weaponizing it against them. While Republicans fail to even lift a finger in protecting people's rights, Ways and Means Democrats are demanding answers, and I recommend Ranking Member DOGE for his relentless oversight work. DOGE is seeking unprecedented access to not authorized by federal law to highly sensitive taxpayer data information. It seeks to merge that data into an omnibus information sharing agreement across multiple federal agencies that will create a federal master file on every American, said Representative Dodgett. Placing confidential information on earnings, bank accounts, healthcare into a single universally accessible format makes it much more exposed to unauthorized individuals. It will be a gross violation of our basic privacy rights. Treasury Secretary Bessent evasive answers to inquiries about this scheme make our need to act all more urgent. This resolution of inquiry aims to expose the damage done in order to protect against this dangerous overreach. This mass aggregation of private information without transparency, guardrails, or consent is a grave assault on Americans' liberty and privacy. Privacy advocates, including Republican member of Congress, have warned the danger of such massive pool of governmental data being handed over to a corporation for undisclosed current and future use without people's knowledge and consent. Ways and Means Democrats are demanding answers and accountability by giving the president 14 days to provide all documents and copies, records, audio recordings, memorandum, and more to the House representatives relating to the 1. Development of a centralized database by the federal government and Palantir, 2. The purpose and potential uses of a centralized database, and 3. Services provided by Palantir to the Social Security Administration, the Internal Revenue Service, the Department of Labor, the Department of Treasury, or the Department of Health and Human Services. Read the full resolution of inquiry. And there is a PDF of the full resolution of inquiry, okay? I can link everything down. Now, I want to read finally this news article from Bazinga. This is July 3rd. So basically, 1 month ago, right? Everything happened literally a month ago, and nobody talks about. I mean, it was a little bit in the news, but not that much, because the Trump administration, and this all the Jeffrey Epstein thing is literally overshadowing this. And I think Elon Musk is in the game as well, because this is all about DOGE, okay? I don't trust nothing about Elon Musk, as you know me by now. So from Bazinga is Palantir reportedly assisting Trump administration's DOGE to compile Americans' personal data. The Bazinga's key point is U.S. states allege Department of Health and Human Services illegally sharing millions of Medicaid records with Homeland Security. A lawsuit launched by California's Attorney General warns the privacy breach could deter vulnerable patients from seeking needed care. States are accusing the federal government for breaching long-standing laws protecting Medicaid recipients' private health data by secretly sharing it with the federal immigration authorities. California Attorney General Rob Bonta recently filed a lawsuit on the part of the multi-state coalition challenging the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services decision to provide unfettered access to individual personal health data to the Department of Homeland Security DHS, arguing that it violates federal law, threatens to erode trust in the healthcare system, and deters vulnerable populations from seeking care. I mean, trust in the healthcare system. I mean, with the AI, and I mean, if you don't know about what the new administration has actually changed about the AI in the healthcare system, I wrote a blog post about it, very comprehensive. You can read it on my website, draigenschein.com/blog. Okay, so very, very intense stuff going on there. And I have a series on this topic, using AI and the regulations, etc. in healthcare. For over 70 years, federal law has threatened Medicaid beneficiaries' personal and medical information as confidential. I'm sorry, I'll read this again. For over 70 years, federal law has treated Medicaid beneficiaries' personal and medical information as confidential, to be shared only in limited circumstances that support public health or the integrity of the program. However, in June 2025, 1 month ago, nobody talks about this ever. This policy was unappended when the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, under the HHS allegedly transferred sensitive health data from states such as California, Illinois, and Washington to the Department of Homeland Security without notifying the public or following proper procedures. The state argued that this mass transfer of health data occurred without beneficiaries' consent and violated multiple federal statutes, including the Administrative Procedure Act. They further claim it was done under the Trump administration without proper justification or legal authority, undermining the protections Congress established for Medicaid data. HHS has defended its actions by stating that data sharing helps ensure Medicaid benefits are only eligible for individuals. However, states contend this rationale is misleading. Congress has already authorized emergency Medicaid for all U.S. residents, regardless of immigration status. States routinely verify eligibility using federally approved systems. They insist there is no precedent or legal basis for the type of cross-agency data sharing CMS is now enabling. Adding to the concern is the broader context. Reports suggest the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, is compiling a vast, searchable database of Americans' personal information, including tax and social security data, to aid in immigration enforcement. Technology company Palantir Technologies Inc., PLTR, is reportedly assisting in his effort. Critics warn that centralizing such sensitive data dramatically increases the risk of misuse, even with best intentions. The states involved in the lawsuits say they are taking action to safeguard their Medicaid programs and shield their residents from harm. They warn that such data sharing could prompt fear among immigrants, causing them to opt out of Medicaid enrollment even when they are eligible, leading to a loss of federal funding, a strain on state safety net hospitals and adverse public health outcomes. States are asking the court to issue immediate relief to stop the unauthorized sharing and uphold the long-standing principles of the state-federal Medicaid partnership. The Trump administration has appended long-standing privacy protections with its decision to illegally share sensitive personal health data with ICE. In doing so, it has created a culture of fear that will lead to fewer people seeking vital emergency medical care, said AG Bonta in a statement on Tuesday. Yeah. This is just so... Okay. This is just so sick and so serious, guys, and I definitely encourage you to call your representatives and mention all of these combined. Mention all of this. This is so serious, and this is absolutely important. Like, I cannot, I mean, if you want me to, another thing that I have in my mind is the data breach. There's a severe data breach of millions and millions of Americans, tens of millions of Americans, and it will not stop in this day and age, particularly with AI. It's just, I mean, I cannot even describe you how serious this is. So also, where this is going, to whom this is going, who has access to it, what are they doing with it, it's just very, very serious. So if you like this video, give a like so that everybody can see this. No one is talking about this. I haven't seen anyone talking about this. And all of the bills are passing overnight. Be alerted. Let me know what you want me to cover next, and I will take this into consideration. And please be alerted. Again, call your representatives immediately, because apparently there's another bill they have to pass through, this $9 billion in cut of anti-AIDS funding, global health funding. These are being cut, and this is by Friday. They have to pass it through the House. So call your representatives, not just Democrats, but also the Republicans, okay? Because look, even 3 senators said no. I mean, look at who said no to this. Murkowski, Collins, even Mitch McConnell. So, yeah, right? If you have a Republican House representative, definitely call them. And even with Democrats, you never know. In this day and age, I don't trust any politician at all. I never did. I never will. Okay, right? So thank you, guys. If you like this video, press like. If you haven't subscribed already, hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye, guys.